All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will be starting now because our two speakers, they are experiencing some problems with getting connected. So we will start without them. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. My name is Galina Solomonova. I'm a senior trade advisor at DIT Russia, and I'll be moderating this webinar today. We were expected to, for our director, Mr. Travel Lewis, to join us as well, but unfortunately he can't. Our today's speakers will be Anton Shishkin of Ernst & Young, Matteo Ferrara of the TechSert group, and Stepan Kotov of IFCG company. We will listen to their presentations first, and after that we will have Q&A sessions. So please be active and type your questions into the chat box. Please specify if you want to ask any particular speaker or you're asking all of them. If we don't have enough time to take all the questions, we of course will attend to them offline after the webinar. All the presentations can be downloaded right here from this website, or you can contact us and we will send the presentations to you. Also, the webinar will be recorded and the video will be distributed automatically to all those who registered. If you experience any problems with sound or picture, try to refresh your page, the page of your browser. Usually it helps. Without further ado, let's start our webinar and talk about certification. But first, I probably would like to tell you a couple words about our department. For those of you who probably don't know about the department and what we do. So we are a governmental department. And we support UK exporters all over the world, including Russia, as you understand. There are various programs of governmental support. We have several offices in the UK. You can learn more about them at the website. And various programs, for example, you can use our Export Opportunities website where we publish export opportunities in all the countries. You can apply to them and see if your goods or services can be bought in any of the countries. In Russia, we work with a range of exporters, the new ones who don't know anything about this country and this market, and also with those who already trade here in Russia. We provide market overview and we prepare lists of potential partners for the UK companies. We also organize or participate in various business events. They are now limited, but just like anybody else, we switched to the digital formats. We can help you with a lot of your requests. And let me now introduce our speakers who will talk more about certification, because probably this is one of the topics that we don't cover professionally. We can provide you with some general advice, but not the particular details. So our expert speakers will talk about how all the processes organized here to get your certification in Russia. Let me now pass over to Anton, our first speaker.
Good morning. Good morning. Greetings from the sunny Moscow. It's cold and sunny. My name is Anton Shishkin. I'm leading the customs team in EY in Moscow, but actually in charge of not only Moscow, but also of some CIS countries. So today I will tell you about what an exporter should know just when dealing with Russian counterparties, because it's like I receive a lot of questions from the companies abroad Russia and they say our Russian partners require from us this and that, and is this something that is really needed? Is there is a law that demands it, or it's just some kind of a practical joke or something? So I just answered these questions a lot, so I decided as a first step to gather the most frequent things that are true and that you need to know when dealing with Russian counterparties. So I think I don't have a control over the presentation, so Galina, can I please ask you to switch to the next slide? Ah, I got control, sorry. Okay, so the first thing probably that is important is that you will need to have a written formal contract with the Russian counterparty to supply goods and services. Yeah, this is because for Russian authorities, the contract is the core document that they always read very carefully, and it must be in place. So I know that outside of Russia, it's very frequent that someone can just join the open just terms and conditions of sales and get the goods and services, but as of now, it doesn't work well in Russia. So when your Russian partner asks you to formalize a contract, to sign a contract, it's something that they really need to get the goods into Russia and get them through customs. And the contract should include some basic points that are necessary for the customs clearance. So it's description of goods, what specifically is supplied. It can be either a detailed description or general description, so depending on the terms of supply. Pricing is also mandatory to be indicated. What's the price, what the total value, the currency, what the price includes, and freight inside or not. What documentations you will provide as a supplier to your Russian partner, how the settlements are made, so how they pay you, and what are the Incoterms, delivery terms, and who takes which cost. So these are all very important, and just to get the goods through customs more or less smoothly. Another thing is labeling and marking. So many goods to be imported to Russia, they are subject to various requirements and regulations, and as a rule, the goods must have some kind of marks and labels with Russian symbols. For example, the most frequent one is the mark of conformity. So when the commodity is certified in Russia, when it's sent, it must have on the box the conformity mark. And this actually represents some kind of very funny stories, because when suppliers just put the stickers and labels with this mark on the packages, they often do it upside down, or they just print two parts and stick them in different orders. So it's issues that leads to certain problems at customs. So it's better to find out how it looks like and how it should look on the box. So if your Russian partner asks you to put some labels on the goods, so it's not something that is not needed. It's really required in many cases. Okay, then the next one is the authorizations that can be asked by your Russian partner. So there are some permissive documents that an manufacturer shall apply to or assign a Russian representative. to apply for this certification or declaration of conformity. And in order to authorize your Russian partner to apply for this certificate or other permissive document, you will need to give them the formal right to do this. And this is normally also formalized as it's some kind of a written contract that a manufacturer authorizes the Russian company to go to certification lab and just make the certificate. It's normally like several pages of legally complicated text, but they really cannot in Russia get the certification without this letter of authorization, contract authorization. So it's also a regular practice, and it just works this way. So don't be surprised if your Russian partner asks you to sign such authorization letter. Okay, and another issue that is frequently faced is the classification decisions they receive in Russia. What is this? So just for example, when a huge production line is sent to Russia, but it's too huge to be supplied on like one truck, and it's sent like within 6 months, 8 months by parts and pieces. So the regular procedure is that the Russian importer declares each part and piece separately, and the duty rates can vary just significantly from 0 to 15%. And this classification decision, it allows to say to customs, okay, I am importing a production line, it's a single unit. When I assemble it, it just, I don't know, liquefies gas, you know, and the duty rate for this gas liquefier is 0%. So the importer can declare all these components not under 10%, not under 15%, but under 0%. So it's very convenient, but it's always linked very heavily to the list of equipment. So when you supply the parts and pieces and components, they are all listed in this classification decision. So you cannot just change the component without notifying your Russian counterparties. So because they are listed with customs, and if something is different, it will not go through under this classification decision. So please check with your Russian counterparty if they are going to receive one, and if yes, there will be some extra work to be done on the list of components and all the technical documentation. So these are the main probably things that I hear very frequently in questions from the foreign companies, and just these are regular things, and it's not something that is extra request from the Russian partners. Okay, so a couple of words also regarding the framework of permissive documentation in Russia that is required for import. I just summarized the most important and most frequently met documents, and I'll briefly tell about each of them. So the first one, the most frequent, is the certificates and declarations of conformity. So these are the documents that just confirm that the commodity complies with Russian safety regulations. So it just covers a lot of various goods, including machinery and equipment and food, everything. So it can be either certificate or declaration of conformity. So the procedure for the collection is a little bit different, but if the commodity is subject to this certification, it must be received before it enters into free circulation in Russia. The second document is the import licenses and permissions. So some goods are subject to special licenses. For example, it's radio frequency, high frequency devices and radio electronic equipment. This is because just this equipment can interfere some Russian radio frequency environment, and so they are specially licensed to be imported into Russia. But of course, there is a list of exceptions of what doesn't need to be licensed, like regular Wi-Fi and Bluetooth transmitters in commodities. So once they are registered and they are on the list, you can import the goods with them without any licenses. Okay, so next category, which is all frequently falls under the requirement, is goods with encryption. There will be more detailed explanations on this from other speakers, but generally, so it's if it's heavy encryption, you need a license. If it's not heavy, light encryption, you need to notify the Russian Federal Security Service about this. And there are some criteria about heavy and light, but more details you will hear about a little bit later. So the next one is sanitary documents. It can be also the state registration. For example, it's applied to chemical products, to products that can contact with human. So they need to be certified that they are okay to get in contact with human. And this can require state registration, and you need to have the certificate of state registration just before you start supplying them to Russia. And there is also the export control implications. So there are lists of goods that are subject to export control. They are based on international agreements, so it's like a Wassenaar agreements, and but it works like in both directions. So there are a list of controlled goods, and the export of these goods is licensed, and import of these goods is also licensed. So it works like both sides. And so it's not only about export, actually, it's also about import. And if the goods are, for example, dual use, an importer will need a license to import them and to export them. But if the goods are just, they are not really dual use, but they resemble dual use goods, an importer may need to get the expert opinion from the Russian Federal Service that the goods are not actually subject to export control. And normally the applicability of all these documents, it is triggered by two criteria. The first one is the customs classification code, and the second one is the description, or the combination of them as a rule. So when customs have a clearance, they take into account both these two factors, like classification code, tariff code, and the description of goods and their parameters. So I think that's all in brief, and I'm almost done with the timing. So if you have any questions, you're welcome.
Anton, thank you very much. I can see that Trevor could get connected. Trevor, would you like to take a word and say hello to our attendees?
Yes, very much indeed. Can I just double check that you can all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. And apologies for my lack of IT skills. I found actually eventually the link had turned up in my junk folder. That's why I couldn't find it, but entirely my fault. So sorry for that. And really, I don't want to take up very much more of your time because you really want to listen to the experts. That's the most important thing. But really, all I wanted to just do was just say a few brief words on behalf of DIT. Obviously, our role is to help British companies export to Russia and indeed help Russian companies who want to invest in the UK. But as you might imagine, we provide very much a general platform for people, general advice, market advice, some tips and some experience. And often a lot of what we do is put people in touch with the people who can help them best. So that's very much our role. But I think very much what you want to do today is listen to the experts. So rather than me take up too much of your time, I'll hand back to the panel and wish you all the best for the rest of the seminar. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Trevor. And thank you, Anton, once again. So probably we should get into details a bit more, and I'm passing over to Matteo.
So good morning, Matteo. My name is Matteo Ferrara. I work for a represent a certification agency. I've been working in technical certification for Russia and the Custom Union for like about 10 years. And we are going to go through the technical certification and the procedures to get them. We'll be more focused on the certification for new plants or industrial application, and that's it basically. So the first thing to do when a new plant is to be installed is to have to rectify all the project. This means take the project that in this case are prepared outside of Russia and translate them and translate the relative standards. So there are the compatible standard to, for example, ASME or the European directive, which are to be found and respected to build anything in Russia. Usually, this procedure is done by the company responsible for the plant. And after preparing this document, preparing the new drawing, very often these are approved by the authority of the area. This means that there is an agency called Rostechnadzor, which is responsible for the safety of the workers and the environment, and they are supposed to go through all these documents and give pre-approval on the suitability of the project for the place where it's going to be built. The second preliminary phase is to survey all the regulation in place, both in Russia and in the Custom Union, to understand what are applicable for the product which is to be certified. Mm-hmm. So obviously, there are two lines. There are two certification systems which are complementary. The one, it's the EAC certification system, which is based on the RCU regulation, and it is valid for 5 countries. This means Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia, and Belarus. And then there are GOSTAR regulation, which are valid just for Russia. And it's very important, to be aware of both of them and to understand any product which kind of regulation has to abide to. And now we are going to be to focus a bit more on the certification for the Custom Union. They are easily recognizable because of the sign EAC on all the documents. As has been said before, correctly, there are two documents mainly. There is a certificate of conformity and declaration of conformity. Every product can for every product can be issued, a certificate of conformity. For some of the product, a declaration of conformity is enough. Every regulation of the custom union very precisely assign some product to one document, other product to the other. There are differences between them, obviously, and from a very practical point of view, the certificate is it's a bit harder to get, and a bit, and the procedure, a more complicated procedure is to be followed. This procedure always, in the case of certificate conformity, involve an inspection on the site of production, and this may be very challenging, especially in this moment, since some regulation has been changed to try to accommodate the situation, but very often, it's really a problem. The declaration of conformity instead, it's a document which is keep basically all the responsibility of the product on the conformity of the product on the producer, and generally doesn't require an inspection. Although there are some cases where also an inspection is required. This obviously it's for this obviously for the producer change the impact in time in terms of cost and time terms. Obviously the certificate takes about at least a couple of months in the best case scenario, and it costs 3-4 times more than a declaration. But whenever it's mandatory, there is nothing to be done about. Going through the marking, after a certification is issued, both a declaration and a certificate, the product need to be correctly marked. This means having the EAC marking on the product, on its packaging, or in the documents relative to the product, and some information also in the Russian language that are to be applied both on the product and in the documents. Each regulation, depending on the kind of product, has very precisely detail the information to be put inside. One important aspect of all this certification is the fact that the formal company which requires them must be resident in one of the countries of the custom union. This means that a foreign company can't by itself require a certification. At the end of the process, the certification is going to be issued. Both, can be both a declaration or a certificate. The certification is issued, and it belongs to the company, the company resident inside of the custom union which require it. This means that some issues can arise in those cases when the foreign producer don't have a reliable partner inside of Russia, or a subset, a company related to it, or somebody, or some company it can trust. And the older certification can use the document as it like. This means that for any other company to use the same document to import the product, a power of attorney is required. So obviously, it can very much limit the use of the document and the possibilities to sell the product itself. all certification except a rare case, which is the scheme at 1D for the declaration, require in this moment samples. The fact is, all the accredited laboratories for the EAC certification are inside of the custom union. This requires that samples are usually sent to a laboratory. The documents which prove the delivery of those samples may be required in the future during the exportation of the product. So technically, the very procedure of sending the sample and the proof of having done it is used as a proxy to know if it has been if the certification body and the producer have complied with all the regulation. This is valid for basically for most of products, and the only thing is in case of products not easily transportable. In that case, there are procedures which allow an expert from the laboratory to move to the site of production and test it on the site, or the product can be tested on the site of installation. And this is is to be managed correctly, to avoid every kind of issue in the future with the validity of all the documents issue. It's very important because in this moment the custom authorities may require for every importation mainly three documents for every product. The certificate or the declaration of conformity, the test report that has been done for the product, and the proof of the delivery of the samples to have that test report issued. So just to get a bit more deeper into the certification of the regulation for the industrial sector, the main regulation everybody is going to be face is the regulation 010 of 2011, which is basically the same. It's very much inspired by the directive, the machine directive of the European Union, but does not recognize it. This means that obviously, a new certification is to be done each time for every machinery which is imported, but has also a good side, which is that the certification of every machine implies the conformity of all its parts and the future spare parts. This obviously, makes much simple the procedure. The second and third regulation, which are very much important in this case, are the regulation 04 and 020, which are for low voltage and EMC. Also, those regulations are taken basically entirely from the European directive. And also in this case, the thing is, the certification of a product implies the certification of all its parts, and they basically can they can go together, and they can go together in one document with the regulation 010, which we've seen before. Very important, for the industrial sector is the regulation 012 2011, which is the same of ATEX, and it's very much taken by but it's a basic it's almost a translation of it. There are some different standards, there are some different marking, but we are basically talking about the same thing. There is no the regulation does not recognize the European regulation, and in this case, to attain a certification of a product, you need to certify all its components by the regulation 012, which may become an extremely expensive situation to go through. And last important regulation is the 32 of 2013, which is the regulation inspired by the PED, the European PED. It is applicable to vessel pipes, flanges, but is not applicable to full equipments. The pressure limits are very much the same of the PED, but are based on the working pressure of the product, not the design pressure. Also, in this case, there are 4 categories of risk. The first 2 categories are low risk, which bring to a declaration, and the third and fourth category is for high risk equipment and bring to a certificate conformity. Last thing I'd like to touch, since I've seen there is a big request for this, are the regulation applicable to the automotive sector and spare parts. There is a regulation which is the 018 of 2011, which is the base of the system, and basically all spare parts need to go through it. It's a pretty hard regulation, especially because there are very few laboratories in this moment available, and may be pretty expensive, and the queue are very much not they are pretty long, so it's not always easy to get a certification in reasonable time. To the spare parts, as we also other regulation are applicable, but mainly it's very important to concentrate on this because it's the biggest obstacle to get a certification for spare parts. And that's it. That's all I had to say. If there are questions later, we can I can obviously answer. Hope to be being clear, and thank you. I have finished. Galina, I have finished.
Yes, thank you. I was just thank you very much for your interesting and informative presentation. Let's talk some more about other types of equipment and electronics and some other types of approval documents. Stepan, could you please take the floor?
Yes, good morning, colleagues. My name is Stepan Kotov. I am the head of customs practice at IFCG company. We specialize on customs clearance and permissive documents for customs clearance. This topic, permissive documents, will be the topic of my presentation now. Actually, as concerns documents which are needed for import or export into Russia, if we take it as a whole, the whole list of documents, we can divide them into 3 main groups. So the first group is technical regulation. So these are certificates, declarations of conformity. So my colleague Matteo has just covered this topic. The second group is non-tariff regulation. These are notification, licenses, permits, and other specific documents. So this is just what I will tell you about. And the third group is everything else, all other documents which Russian customs can ask, the documents of export control and so forth. So as concerns non-tariff regulations, here we have two main types of documents. The first type is licenses. License for import, and also we have license for export for certain products. Licenses are stipulated by Eurasian Economic Commission, so decree number 30. As we have Eurasian Economic Union, so you know Russia is a part of this union. Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Armenia, Kyrgyzstan. So if we import a product to Russia, this means that we import it into the territory of Eurasian Union, and we can transport it to any other of 5 countries. So this regulation is unified in the whole union. And this decree number 30 stipulates more than 20 groups of products which require license on import or on export. These products are in particular animals, plants, certain types of cultural values, medical products, and so forth. But the main types of products which require license are electronic devices. So I will tell you about this a little bit later. And the second type of non-tariff regulation is quotas for import. This measure is rather specific, and it applies only in certain cases for certain types of products. For example, now we have quotas for rolled metal, which originate from certain countries, in particular from Ukraine. So what does quota means? It means that if any company wants to import any particular product from any particular country, they may import certain quantity of this product, but if they want to import more than this quantity, they can do this, but they should pay a large customs duty. So, as concerns licenses, two main types of products, as I said, which are subject to license on import. The first group is radio electronic devices, and the second is encryption devices. So as you see, all these devices are prescribed in decree number 30. So radio electronic devices, it is item 216, and encryption, it is item 219. So it is easy to find them there. Now it is structured. Previously, about 10 years ago, it was much more difficult to find which product needs license and which product doesn't need license. Now it's much more easier. So, as concerns the first group of products, radio electronic devices, if we import such a product, we need to get a license, but in order to get such a license, we need to go through 4 stages. It seems a rather difficult procedure, but I'll try to explain it. The third stage is temporary import of a sample. So we need to import a sample of this device. Here we need to import it into Russia and test here in Russia. In order to import this sample, we need to get permission for temporary import. Of Russian state body, Roskomnadzor, issues such a permission. The second stage is testing of this sample. Here in Russian radio frequency center, we test it. And if testing goes well, if this radio device corresponds to Russian normatives, it is included into the register of devices allowed for import. The third stage is getting the extract from this register. So again, we go to Roskomnadzor and we get extract from the register concerning about our particular device and confirming that this device is in the register, so it can be imported. And only after that we have the fourth stage. We go to Russian Ministry of Industry, Minpromtorg, and we get a license there. So here is the picture of the license, photo of the license. It is in Russian language, yeah, but I can say that license specify the name of product, its customs code. The license is connected to contract. So the number of contract is specified in the license, and we can use it only within particular contract for particular amount of products within this contract. It is valid for a year. So when a year has passed, we need to make another license, but we don't need to go through all the 4 stages. We just go to only the 4th stage, to Ministry of Industry, and get the license, prolong the license for the next year. So one may ask a question: do they need to get a license to go through all these 4 stages for all radio devices, for all wireless devices? No, we don't need, because we have the list of exclusions. So some devices which are consumer products, which are always around us, for these devices we don't need to get a license. We can import them without license. And the list of these devices is also specified in EC decree number 30. Here is some of them, but actually this list is much longer. Common devices like mobile phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and so forth, they do not require license, and they can be imported without them. Also, Eurasian Commission has a specific register of radio electronic devices, and this register doesn't contain a long list of devices, but it contains specific models of specific manufacturers. And these products are regarded to be in line, to conform to Eurasian normatives, and thus they also can be imported without licenses. So if you plan to import a wireless device into Russia, you may check this register on Commission website, and you can look through the list of exclusions in decree number 30. And decide, do you need license or not? The second type of devices which require license is encryption products. What does it mean, encryption products? Actually, almost all contemporary electronic devices have basic encryption functions. Yes, for example, laptops, they have processor units, they have operation systems, and these elements have simple encryption. Mobile phones, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, they also have simple encryption. And by default, this means that these products require license. But again, here we have exclusions, and the major part of encryption devices do not need license for import, but it need notification, so-called FSS notification. It is a document which is registered by Russian Federal Security Service, and it is much more easy to get a notification than to get a license. So criteria of notification or a license, actually, as I said, the major part of simple electronic devices are subject to notification, not to license. But there are certain criteria, and if your product has specific types of encryption, for example, long cryptographic keys or data encryption and so forth, your product will need a license for import, not notification. These criteria are also prescribed in decree number 30, and we, in our practice, we just help companies to understand. The first thing is to understand, yes, what does your product require? License, notification, or maybe it doesn't require anything. Such a situation also can be. So, how to get a notification? What's the procedure? The procedure is easier than to get a license because the notification is just a document which is filled in by manufacturer or by its Russian representative. It should be filled in Russian. It should contain information about the product, about its characteristics, about encryption functions, cryptographic keys, and so forth. And so sometimes it can be difficult for manufacturer to prescribe everything of this information in Russian language. So usually manufacturer gives a power of attorney, for example, for a Russian company, and this Russian company files notification and submits it to Federal Security Service, FSS. After that, notification should be registered, stamped by FSS within 7 working days. And within another 3 working days, it is published on Eurasian Commission website. So it's important thing that notification is considered to be valid as soon as it is published on website. So you don't need to have a hard copy, original notification. It is enough that it is on website, and moreover, any other company may use it. So not only the applicant, not only the company which registered notification, but any Russian importer, any company which wants to import this product may use this notification which is in the register. So this is the picture of notification. So as you see, it is in Russian language. It's not a long document, it's about 1 or 2 pages, but it is in Russian, and it should contain specific information about encryption functions. So, Galina, I think I have finished this. Thank you, colleagues.
Stepan, very interesting presentation also. Our final speaker, David Nisbet of DMN Consulting, is still struggling to connect to the webinar, unfortunately. We can try to wait for him, and now we will be taking questions. There's a lot of questions. Thank you for that. Thank you for being active. To some of them, I can see that people already reply. There are specific questions, and I also noticed a question that probably Trevor could talk about. It's not about the certification for Russia, it's about the UK. So the question is there a trade deal likely between UK and Russia post-Brexit? And another one question is, what happens to UK exports post-EU exit, as UK are no longer part of the customs union? Trevor, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I can. So no immediate, I think, demand or intention to have any sort of specific deal with Russia after sort of the EU exit is completed. We will continue to, or we will start to deal with Russia on WTO grounds with our own UK schedule, as we will do with quite a lot of countries around the world. So I think that's relatively straightforward. The exact implications of that I'm less clear about, because there's still a negotiation going on within the WTO around customs and tariffs and things, and that still needs to be sorted out. But that will be the basic direction of travel, that will move to trading with Russia on WTO trades for the terms for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Trevor. Now I'm going up to the top of our chat box, and we'll be reading questions. The first one was to Anton. Can you also comment on service applications?
Yeah, thank you, Galina. Unfortunately, service applications, they are generally outside of my area of competence, because I'm dealing mostly with the goods. So on a common sense, the service restrictions and requirements, they depend on the type of services to be provided. So if it's something that is related to like dangerous works, yeah, there could be some requirements. Yeah, but again, I'm just dealing mostly with the goods that are crossing the border. So unfortunately, I cannot give any details on this.
All right, thank you, Anton. There are also 2 more questions in a row. How do these guidelines differ for food and drink, and what about the requirements to services, for example, consultancy services? In the framework of this webinar, we are talking about goods and about industrial sectors, that is components, manufacturing, and machinery. We as a department are planning to run other webinars dedicated to food and drink as well, and also medical appliances and other sectors, because as department we cover many sectors of the market. So please follow our pages and look for the notifications about our future webinars. So I'm moving to the next question. Is there a national or regional certification? No speaker specified, so anybody can take this question.
I think Matteo already just mentioned that there are Eurasian Union requirements and local Russian requirements for Gloucester. I think it was on your slide, Matteo. So that there are just both regional and national existing.
All right, thank you. The next question, is certification required for software?
I think Stepan is more.
Colleagues, yes, as concerns software, as far as I know, certification is not required. But if this software has encryption, for example, it is not just media file, yes, but any program specific with encryption functions, encryption keys, encryption protocols. So in this case, we also need a notification or maybe license. But again, if we import this software via internet, so if we just download it via internet, if we do not transport it physically through customs border, so in this case, there is no customs clearance and you don't need any licenses, any certification for import.
All right, thank you, Stepan. There is also a question about the health and safety regulations in Russia. Again, this is a bit off topic, so we will be glad to discuss it separately offline after the webinar, or include it as one of the subjects into our future webinars. Then the next question, I cannot see if it has been replied or not. We provide analysis services to customers which require an indicator material to be attached to the client's part. After operation, the parts are sent for analysis to the UK. What type of license do we need?
I can take this. I mean, I already answered. You know, I already wrote
okay.
the answer.
Sorry,
but,
I just
yeah. No, just to complement my short answer there. I didn't really understand what he meant. If he meant that he want to be able to have an accreditation to supply certification according to Russian standards, I'm really not aware of any laboratory outside of the Customs Union which did that. And there is not a strict law which should make it impossible. But I guess there are practical concern with that, especially about the periodical verification that the laboratory should go through, and the fact that since it's outside of Russia may be pretty expensive, and sometime maybe too often is going to be controlled. So it should be possible. I don't know anybody who did it.
All right, thank you. Next question. Why sometimes we can ship our packages into Russia with one technical passport for the package, but on one project, client has forced us to supply for each individual item, stating one passport doesn't comply with regulations?
The client, it's correct. Every part should come with its passport. Actually, the passport, it's a document which should follow every component for all the life of the component itself. If there is some kind of maintenance or there is any kind of issue, it is to be detailed on the passport itself. I guess the control in general is not so strict. So very often products pass without passport or with a passport which include different items. But if the client asks for it, he has all the reasons to do it.
All right, thank you. Another question. Would the importation of spare parts for mining machinery be covered by a multi-year EAC declaration?
I can go with that as well. Generally, yes. If the declaration comply with all the standards which are required for the part. For example, if the declaration it's done according to the regulation 010, as it should be done, but the part you're importing is also it also comply with the regulation for classified areas. So you need to have a particular certification for that part itself. But it's possible that it can be imported. Or for example, if the part it's a measuring instrument or some other kind of instrument which is not included in the regulation 010, there is it's possible that other documents are required. But in general, it's pretty possible that the declaration for the machinery it's enough.
All right, thank you. It looks like there are no other questions in our chat box, but before the webinar started, there also has been one question about the chemicals and about the REACH regulation. Can anyone talk about the chemicals?
Nobody?
No. Okay.
Again, I can do it, but it's. I guess it. It may be very hard for anybody to describe that regulation since it's not clear. There. In the last couple of years, several working groups have been working on it because it's. The regulation has been done basically crossing the American and the European, and what came out, it's not so. It's hard to apply to the system. So I'm not sure what the situation at the moment, if anything, has been clarified or has been modified in the way that the regulation it's more in line with what the company expected.
Okay, thank you.
If they contact the AAB, for example, they surely have some information more about.
Okay. Well, for us as a department, again, it's a good opportunity to find a specialist who could consult our UK exporters on this sector, on the sector of chemicals. So we will work on it. There is another question in the chat box. If we have several importers selling our product, does each importer have to get their own passport or have a POA from the original importer?
I think this question is probably about the certificates for importation.
No, it is about the certificate, not about the problem is the problem is you want to import you are a foreign producer, you want to import your product through different channels, but you don't want to repeat the same certification process for each of your channel. Maybe you have 5 dealers. You don't want to have 5 certification because it becomes a very it becomes an impractical job. You need to send samples for each of it. You need to wait. You need to pay for everything. So the best case scenario is you have your own company inside of the custom union, and you certify. You issue one certificate on that company, and that company provide power of attorneys to all your dealers to sell your products. At the moment, many companies have found a workaround to, there are some companies which the only thing they do is to provide the service, so to be the company to request the certificate and then sign power of attorneys. But the authorities are planning to stop this. Nobody is really sure how they're going to do it, but they probably in the future there are going to be there's going to be some new controls on the companies that require certification to see if they are able to comply with all the requests that the law imply. So because once you have a certification in your name, you have responsibilities, and if your company has about $200 of capital, you obviously can't go. You can't hold those responsibilities, and the authorities are trying to do something to avoid that. But at the moment, it's possible.
All right, thank you. There's another question in the questions section. Our company is supplying packaged equipment into Russia, which has TRCU 010, but our client has insisted that we require TRCU 010 for each individual piece of equipment as well. Is this correct?
Is it 010 or 012? I remember it was
010. Just a moment. I will copy it in the chat box.
I don't see it.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Okay. Now I see it, and the client is wrong. It's this happened very often. Technically, the law, as I said before, once you have a certification 010 on any installation or machinery, all its part are to to be considered already certified. But very often, people want to go safer and ask for documents more. Obviously, I don't know. It depends. In this kind of situation, very much. The issue is to go to see the contract and see what the contract imply. If in the contract it's clear that you need to supply certificate for each of the components, there is nothing to do. If the contract just says that you need to have all the certification applicable for the kind of machinery, so in that case you can very well take the regulation 010/2012, go to paragraph 5, I think, or 6, and there is it's very clearly stated that once you certify the machinery, all its components are to be considered certified, as long as they respect, as they are, is applicable. But it shouldn't be a problem. It's the law.
Okay, thank you, Matteo. So I cannot see any more questions in the chat box, but anyway, thank you to all our attendees being so active and asking your questions. And if you think of anything else you would like to ask our experts or us, please get in contact, write and call us. Yes, of course, there's a lot of peculiarities, and probably we cannot cover them all in one webinar or reply to your particular cases, but we are happy to continue our discussions offline. Thank you to all our speakers. Your presentations were very informative, and I hope that they helped a lot, at least the newly exporters, and we'll be glad to see you all again at our events. if no more questions, then I suggest that we say goodbye and see you soon.
So thank you, Galina. Thank